right, so let's bring on Ross Stripling right now. Before we get to that game, though, just to continue our conversation a little bit, Ross, how you doing, man? And why do you think the offseason has really come to a halt here? We've been kicking around the fact that the excuse du jour this offseason has been, the TV money for owners. It's the only thing I rely on in life. I can't spend any money now.
Well, for one, what's up, guys? I'm actually
What's
not
up?
driving this time, so don't worry. I'm parked and I'm going to be safe. It's a good question, man. When the Otani domino fell, all of us, I think, expected many dominoes to fall very quickly after, and it just hadn't gone that way. I do think the TV money probably has to be taken into account, but it certainly isn't the end all be all. So I don't know. At the end of the day, there's a few really top level free agents out there talking maybe Bellinger, Snell, Chapman, maybe in an echelon by themselves. I apologize if I'm missing anybody. And I think that there's a lot of teams bidding for their services, and I think they're just kind of able to sit back and make those teams keep bidding the price up. So props to them for holding steady. That's what I think is happening. I have no inside information. But yeah, it's been slow. I was able to see Justin Turner maybe like 10 days ago, and he signed like early December last year, and you could tell it was starting to get to him a little bit as far as wait to see where he's going to go and starting to get a little antsy. But yeah, it's just been slow. I don't have the answers. Everyone's asking me about it. Like, I know, like, it's, you become the CBA guy like I was for the Blue Jays, and people expect me to have answers and stuff. I got nothing. You guys probably know more than I do.
Ross, is that why you picked up your option? Is that why you were like, nope, I don't want to be no free agent this offseason? Is that why you were like, yeah, I'll stay right where I am in my little San Francisco cocoon?
I'd like to say that's why, but it also has to do with my ERA starting with a 5. So I think it makes sense for me to opt in there and go make good on that contract, pitch well in a Giants uniform, and maybe have at it again next year.
All right, so you were a guy that was brought in last year as a starter. Now they're bringing in Jordan Hicks as a starter. What do you think? What do you think when you hear a bullpen guy is coming in as a starter? Do you think, he's got an electric arm, he can totally do it? Or are you sitting there going, that's interesting. Maybe they kind of see him as like a bulk starter instead of a starter.
Yeah, if you would have asked me last year with, the Gabe Kapler regime, I would have said more of the latter of what you just said. A guy that I don't see getting more than 15 outs. But now we got Bob Melvin and Brian Price and a different regime here that's a little bit more old school. And Bob Melvin is known for letting his starters ride. So, I would like to think if they say they're going to build him up as a starter, they're going to expect him to get 18, 21 outs. I mean, the upside of his stuff, if you can keep him healthy as a starter, that's pretty incredible. I believe he's given it a shot before. I'm not sure, how it went, if he got hurt or if they just realized he's so electric at the back end of a bullpen. The Giants have a history of righting the ship on some pretty cool arms. Carlos Rodon, Kevin Gausman, some others. Andrew Bailey left and went to the Red Sox, but we still got a lot of our back end kind of behind the scene pitching guys there to be there and help Hicks out. So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like. He's a big, strong kid. I got to think that he can handle the workload, but until you do it, you don't really know. So it'll be fun to watch the transition.
Ross, have they talked to you about your role? Are you going to be a starter next year? Are you penciled into the starting 5, or are you going to be kind of the swing man?
You know what? I don't know. No one's told me one thing or another. If you go look at the way our roster is configured right now, it's basically Logan Webb healthy at the top, and then Robbie Ray, Alex Cobb are hurt. I'm not sure when they're planning on coming back. Kyle Harrison's just a kid, but he's got talent through the roof. And after that, there's a lot of us that are kind of could be starters, could be bulk guys, could do a little bit of the back and forth thing. I think last year I let it affect me a little bit too much. Honestly, really not happy about the way that I let it kind of rock my world. I expected to be a starter last year. That's part of the reason I signed there, and it just didn't go that way. This year I'm going to go in with the same mindset I had the first 7 years of my career, which is if you're throwing well, they're going to get you the ball. Who cares about role? They want guys to eat innings and get outs, and if you're throwing the ball well, they'll make it happen. So I'm just going to go with that mentality and see how it shakes out.
Do you like not knowing? Because you seem firm in your belief in like what your mindset and mentality is going to be. But would you like it if they called you? If Bo Mel was like, Ross, hey, this is what we're thinking. We're going to do. We're going to move you to the starter role, but we understand or would you rather just be like, nah, off season, I'm going to work so that I can throw 180 innings and take care of the kiddos?
Yeah, I think you have to have the mentality that you're going to log innings like that. I think you have to, if that is potentially going to be your role, you have to build up as if you're going to make 30 starts and mentally and physically prepare for that, because that is a workload unlike any others. I haven't done it. I mean, the most innings I've thrown in the big leagues is like 130, So, but I'm always preparing to, this is going to be the year that I make 30 starts and eat up innings like that. And then you make changes as it comes. But I think that I would always like to know. I do think the best 2 years I've had in my career has been 1 year as a Dodger, 1 year as a Blue Jay, where I knew they were going to give me runway as a starter. And I had a good year. That was 2018 and 2022. So, I would always love it if someone come and said, Strip, you're a starter. We see you as a starter. You're only going to be a starter. That's how I thought last year was going to go. But I do think I perform better or perform well when you're on edge, right? When you're feeling like you're competing for innings, you're competing for role and competing for spots. That always brings the best out in you. It's competition, right? So I think there's pros and cons to both.
Do you have conversations about this in spring training once you get there? Are there conversations before you get there? Are these combos with manager Bob Melvin, who's new, taking over? Are they with more of a pitching coach or someone in the pitching department?
Yeah, I'd say it's more in the pitching department. Right when we hired Bob, he called me, as I imagine he called pretty much everyone down the 40-man, introduced himself. We got to chum it up a little bit, talk about, people that we've crossed with, Sham and I, Matt Chapman, Michael Waka, et cetera. Instantly hit it off. He seems awesome. And then after that, you really start to hone in with the new pitching staff. We kept one guy, JP Martinez from last year's staff, but now we got Brian Price and some others. So really getting to know those guys. They're getting a feel for me and my arsenal, how I prepare, along with everyone on the staff. So, but no, I would say nobody's come out to me and said, like, Strip, you're going to be a starter. In fact, I even kind of went out of my way to tell Price that, last year, I kind of what I just told you guys. I wasn't happy with the way I handled myself. This year, I'm coming in with a better mentality, and you're not going to hear me bitch and complain about anything. I'm ready to take the ball whenever you need me, and let's go win some games. So, choosing to start with the clean slate with this new staff and try and forget about some of the stuff from last year.
That's cool. I like that. So another question for you on your new skipper. When you spoke to him, did you maybe see if he's got a chip on his shoulder? I know someone that's pretty close with him, and I know he's been in the game for a while, but he's part of a San Diego team that had a pretty good-looking roster. There was some internal strife, to say the least. I think if anyone, I'm sure you paid attention at least a little bit to an article or two here and there with AJ Preller and Bob Melvin just flat out not getting along. So do you think, even though he's so accomplished, he'll have a chip on his shoulder this year and be like, screw this, I want to win the division and beat the Padres?
Yeah, definitely. I think no doubt. You could tell he was extremely motivated when I talked to him. I really liked our conversation. But also, he's a Bay Area guy. He played baseball at Cal. He's bringing, some of his longtime kind of left and right hand guys and bench coach, pitching coach, and the rest of his staff. And I think he's like viewing it as, I'm coming home to win games. I'm coming to where I was born and raised and learned the game. And this is his dream job. And I think he's ready to make the most of it. And yeah, it just happens to be that the Padres are in division. And I'm sure that's motivation enough to win some games and put a good team on the field and try and make some noise in his first year. I think that we have a chance to be pretty good. And I think, Farhan is obviously very motivated to go add some pieces. So I think he's certainly not done working. So it'll be interesting to see as the roster really comes together here in these next few weeks leading up to spring.
All right. Let's say put yourself in some of your ex-teammates' shoes. You're talking about JT, not signed yet. If you're not signed yet, what's your mindset? We talked about this earlier. I never went through big league free agency, minor league free agency. If you're not signed yet, you better start figuring out a construction job. But you what's your mindset, or what's the mindset of, a guy like JT that you talk to?
Personally, I'm stressed. There's no doubt. I'm stressed. I mean, we are like within a month of heading to Arizona for spring training. You're telling me I don't know if I'm going to Arizona or Florida, and man, I'd be stressed. And on top of that, like, I'm married with 2 kids, that's a whole different weight on your shoulders of taking care of them and setting them up and getting them to a place where they feel comfortable. That's a whole different list of responsibilities that some guys have, some don't. I don't think JT's worried. At the end of the day, I think he knows he's probably going to be hitting third for a pretty good team somewhere. So So I imagine he's hanging in there okay. I think it's just kind of the stress of the unknown, right? The little bit of anxiety. You know, most guys have their spring training housing. Most guys are starting to, chumming up with new teammates or new staff like I am, and start getting the ball rolling. You feel like baseball's right around the corner. I know where I'm going. I'm excited. They still don't have a clue where they're going. So I think, it depends on your situation. Like JD Martinez, Jorge Soler, JT, like they're going to be hitting DH somewhere, hitting homers, doing what they do. But some of these other guys in the middle ground who maybe don't know if they're getting split contracts, maybe still hoping for a big league contract, all that kind of stuff. It's stressful, man. I'd be feeling it for sure.
Ross, you're talking about the stressful situation. You had the Giants last year. They had Gabe Kapler, who we all know kind of handles pitchers a little bit differently than like Bob Melvin and Brian Price in the old school way. Is it going to be a relief to you, whatever happens, whether you're a starter, a bulk guy, whatever your role is on the team, if they come to you and say, let's say you're a month into spring training, they come to you and say, you know what, Ross, pitch your ass off in spring training. You're going to be our fourth starter, our fifth starter, whatever it is. You're going to be a starter on this team. Won't that be such a relief compared to what you've gone through last year where you're like, well, man, I'm going to start, but they're only going to give me maybe 6 hitters. And then the 2 days later, oh, man, I might come in the third inning. And then I might come in the 7th for 3 innings. And then the next time I might start and bounce you around. Isn't it so much better as a player to know where you stand and go from there?
Yeah, I think everyone would take the stability of that, right? I mean, it just no doubt. When you know you're going to get some runway as an everyday player or as a starter or as whatever your role might be in the bullpen, and you can totally tailor your routine physically and mentally around that role, that's a huge deal. That takes a lot of burden off your shoulders of just the unknown of kind of the stuff we were even just talking about. I totally believe that. But I also think kind of what I touched on earlier as well is the unknown can bring out your competitive juices, right? Where maybe you are in a role where you feel like you want to do something a little different or you want to earn more innings or whatever. And you're maybe a little bit motivated out there on the mound than you were. So it kind of pros and cons. I feel like I've already said this a little bit, but yes, I would take the stability any day. Like I said, I think that's the 2 best seasons I've ever had in the big leagues is when I felt that stability. But I also made a living doing the back and forth for some really good Dodger teams where I just ate the last 3 innings of blowout games. And that was a lot of value to those teams. So, you got to kind of find your little niche in the big leagues, what keeps you there and earn extra at bats and innings along the way.
Ross, I don't think we've had you on since Yamamoto signed. So just wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw with that contract, actually including the perks, because, we're used to like, oh, the suite on the road and maybe, some tickets. And for him, I think he has a personal trainer, a physical therapist. There's like maybe 3 or 4 kind of full timers besides the translator, of course, that he brings to the mix too. So your overall thoughts on how the Dodgers did there with landing the top free agent starter on the market?
Yeah, wow. You know what? I actually didn't know that about all the staff that he brought. I've played with some really elite Asian players, and they do usually have, a physical therapist, a translator, maybe a strength coach. So that is not abnormal. Now, 4 or 5 is more than I've seen. But honestly, those guys end up being the best because they just have a totally different like regimen and stuff that they believe in. Kikuchi used to have a guy that would put like this crazy little machine on his head that I think could like spike up his energy or bring down his energy. Just like some of the stuff you see that those guys do is incredible. But as far as what the Dodgers did, I mean, the way I look at it is they're just kind of going full villain mode in a way. Like they've always had the payroll, but they've done an unbelievable job of drafting and developing talent. I think that World Series team had something like 16 homegrown Dodgers on it. But now it's Freddie, it's Mookie, it's Shohei, and it's Yamamoto, and they're coming for everybody, and it's time to win. And so props to them for going to make it happen. I'm anxious to see it. At the end of the day, I believe the Yankees said, like, how can we give him Garrett Cole money when he hasn't thrown a pitch in the big leagues? But the Dodgers went and did it. So, the stuff obviously speaks for itself. And until we see how it plays in the big leagues, which I think it'll play just fine. But until then, we'll see, man. He's in division, so I'm going to see plenty of both of them. So it's going to be wild.
All right. Well, you're seeing one of your ex-teammates coming back, and Robbie Ray. What can the Giants expect? Not from necessarily him as a person, but expect partway through the season coming back from a Tommy John when the Giants, because this is the time of year when the Giants, they're a World Series contender. You know, the season will tell you if you are or you aren't. What can they expect when this team is one game out of the playoffs and nipping at the Dodgers' heels, and then they pick up Robbie Ray?
Yeah, I would treat it as it's a dynamite trade deadline acquisition because I think that's a little bit of his timetable, somewhere around the All-Star break maybe. So if you kind of look at it that way, you're going to get a guy who is going to be chomping at the bit to get back out there with electric stuff, 2 years removed from a Cy Young and fresh. And yeah, coming off of TJ is always a little bit wacky, but man, the way that he just turns and grunts and comes at you 110% every pitch. I got to watch it firsthand for 2 years. It's a blast to watch him. So I would look at it that way. We're gonna inject a Cy Young into the rotation around the All-Star break into a team that has playoff aspirations, I assume. So I think it's gonna be a huge deal to get him around that time.
All right, Ross, we're going to try a little game. It's pretty simple, called Two Truths and a Lie. So we'll see if we can pull this off here. It's nothing crazy. It's baseball related. There we go. Let's try it out. Ross is a trooper, so I'm just going to assume you're okay with us trying this out. So we'll read a few facts and we'll see how Kratz and AJ do, I guess, and then you can reveal the answer. So here, I'll read the 3. Number 1, didn't pitch in high school until his senior year. Number 2, senior year of high school, Ross went 14-0 with a 1.60 in 107 innings. Number 3, Ross played cornerback in high school, winning the Texas 5A state title and earning first-team all-state honors. Raise your hand if you would like to pick out where the lie is in those 3 statements. AJ.
I'm going the cornerback. He's too tall to play cornerback.
Okay. Kratz?
I mean, that's the only one that I'm saying because the other 2 kind of match each other. So I'm going to go.
But do you feel like it could be a trick? And I didn't look for the answer yet, but do you feel like it could be a trick with the senior year of high school thing? Like not pitching until then?
It could be.
Because he told us that. He already told us that he didn't pitch till his senior year. So he already told us that. I know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the other interviews. So
right,
the
Ross.
cornerback. I mean, I think you could be a cornerback. You look more like a running back to me, but
really? Running back?
Well, first off,
how tall are you, Ross?
I'm 6'3". Yeah, I was a baby giraffe in high school. I couldn't. I wasn't a corner. I tried to play some receiver. I went to a Friday Night Lights type high school. We were really good, and I do have a couple of rings, which is cool. But I wasn't a major contributor to those teams. Yeah, definitely. The football one is spot on. That cornerback was not in my future for sure.
I'm gonna say receiver though. 6'3". Kind of lanky. I would say wide receiver, not running back. AJ, it's kind of too tall to be a running back.
I said running back.
I didn't say running back. You're crazy.
I'm so sorry.
You need to pay attention more, Scott.
Confuse my catchers with their backwards caps. But good stuff. All right, AJ, what do you got?
I got a question. He's got his A&M sweatshirt on. So are you happy with Mike Elko as your new coach since we're on the football kick today?
Yeah, I am, man. I think he was the right call. We don't need to get too much into Aggie talk. I'm an Aggie and a Cowboy fan, so that's like 2 of the worst things you can be right now. Yeah, so he was the right call. Aggies, man, we're like rich in history, and you got to kind of be an Aggie to coach at A&M, and he has the pedigree for that, and he's out there recruiting his tail off. We got Texas and OU joining the SEC, so it's a big year coming up for us where we got to stay competitive. I think he was the right call. We could have made a bigger splash. I don't know, with Kingsbury or Deion Sanders or something, but I don't think it would have felt right. I think he's the guy for the job.
All right, since you're a Cowboys fan, now I have two quick ones. Did the Eagles make it farther in the playoffs because they played last night and the Cowboys lost Sunday?
I've never heard of that one before. No, they did not. In the history books, that will definitely not be a thing. And the Cowboys won the division despite the Eagles starting 10-1. So I think our season, though also depressing as the Eagles, will go down as a slightly better season.
Okay, that's fair. It's the smartest kid in dumb school. But I gotta say, we had Jack Flaherty on, and the first thing I noticed when he first came in, Jack Flaherty was on. And he was trying to kind of move his head to cover up the headrest because he was in his Lamborghini Urus. I don't even know how you say it. But don't sleep on Ross's flex. Okay, that Nuna car seat you got back there?
Oh
That's
yeah,
baller.
can you see it?
Oh,
Oh
That's
yeah,
baller.
can you see it?
That's like dad baller.
My
Okay,
camera's. Oh yeah, there we go.
ooh.
that's a
What would
dad
be great is
baller
if
car
there's
seat.
a.
If you know.
What would be great is if my son was sitting in it and I was just making him listen to this the whole time. That'd be the expert dad move right there.
Yeah.
And well, then Ross, you'd turn back and go, "I got you a Nuna. You're gonna enjoy it."
Yeah, he doesn't even know.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, Ross, great catching up with you as always, dude. Keep crushing it. Enjoy the off season, and we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Yeah, you guys as well. Keep up the good work. See y'all soon.
Thank you. Cheers, Ross. Ross Stripling, San Francisco Giants with us.